Hey, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, you love his analyst work as far as the NFL, really college. From ESPN, former Colts quarterback Dan Orlovsky joins us. Hey, Dan, how's it going?
I'm good, bud. How are you, man?
5-game win streak. People are getting excited here in the Circle City right now. Offensively, what has most impressed you from this revival of this Colts team in the past 5 weeks?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't probably pin it on one thing. I mean, I love everything a great majority of the things that they do. They're one of the most fun offenses for me to watch in the NFL right now. You know, obviously the offensive line's been fantastic. There's no sugarcoating that. There's no running from that, and nor should there be. I would say that the multitude of the ways everybody is being used is the most impressive thing to me. And you know, they're doing it, and Frank's doing it with guys that probably are not household names outside of Indianapolis. And obviously Andrew Luck is playing at the position as good as you could argue anybody. And I know Breeze is having an incredible year, and Mahomes and Goff, and there's guys that are playing at a level that we really haven't seen consistency-wise. And Andrew Luck's right up there. And the biggest thing for me that I see right now with Andrew Luck is he has full confidence in his play caller and the people around him. And so that's been really impressive to see. You know, obviously I've spoken with you guys about Eric Ebron.
Yeah.
And I would say the thing that has stood out about Eric is Frank's very smart. Like, this is how coaches are smarter than other coaches, I guess, if you want to put it like that. Like, watch a lot of the things that Eric does, the touchdowns that he catches. The thing that has stood out to me is they're not asking Eric to slow down. He's not breaking down and coming in and out of cuts. Everything he does is vertical, like it's running. Whether it's shallow crosses, he's still just running. Or it's these touchdowns where, you know, they motion him over and he's running a corner route, but there's no chopped feet. Go to the corner. It's just continue to move running vertical. The touchdown on the seam, everything's vertical. And my guess is Frank and his staff have realized, okay, this is what he does well. We're not going to ask him to break down because maybe that's where some of the drops had come from in the past, and he's playing at a high level. So just the multitude of how everybody's doing things has been the most impressive.
Dan Orlovsky of ESPN, he's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline talking Colts and NFL. You were right on the money. You pegged Eric Ebron, and I remember that first conversation we had, and you said, hey, this guy's going to work hard. It is going to be different than it was in Detroit, and not only has it been different, it has been spectacular down here in his first season in Indy.
Yeah, he's probably been one of the best free agent signings. Now, Credit goes to Eric. You know, I was partly painting the glass half full and the optimistic part of it. But, you know, I truly believe, listen, it's a change of scenery, and he doesn't have to go be the guy. And, you know, I didn't expect this kind of performance, but he's been one of the better free agent signings in all of the NFL. I'll say this. Eric's one of the players that he needs to be having fun. You know, some guys can just go grind it out. Eric's not that guy right now. And so I haven't spoken with him recently, but he just looks like a kid who's having fun. And that's a really big deal. I'd say that Andrew Luck, as a quarterback, is one of those guys that he can just place balls. It's almost like he can run out there and place a ball to a guy exactly where he wants it. And usually it's easier to do that with quarterbacks if you have got some bigger targets. Eric's a big target. And so the mesh, the relationship, the marriage, it's just been perfect in Indy right now for him. And so listen, for a guy that was with him, it's really fun to see him having fun and performing.
Yeah, you know, Dan, I bring this up all the time too. To me, and Jack Doyle's done for the season now, which is unfortunate because he was a problem. This tight end group down here that had been so successful. But to me, this tight end group here was so reminiscent, mirror images of what Frank had as the offensive coordinator in Philly last year, where it was Trey Burton and Brett Selig and Zach Ertz, and those guys were thriving, especially this time of year and going into the postseason this time last year. And it to me, it looked a lot the same in comparison between this group of tight ends and that one in Philly last year. You agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they all have their unique skill sets, right? They all have the things that they do best, and their coaches ask them to do that a lot. They're used to, get the quarterback a bunch of information. Okay, is there a matchup on this play that I like with one of these guys? I've said that it looks a lot like Stanford in a way where, he had Kobe Fleener and two other guys that I forget their names because years ago, but, there's a comfort level to that. So, yeah, I mean, Frank certainly should be in the conversation he's in the conversation for Coach of the Year right now with what he's been able to do. And, again, no one wanted Jack Doyle. No one wanted Eric Ebron, or very few teams wanted Eric Ebron and to pay him that money. And then the third, Ali Mo Cox is his name, right? So
Mo Alley, the basketball player,
Cox.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like he's doing it with these first, second round, third round, all these big time guys. He's done it with a free agent that kind of was kicked to the curb and no one really wanted. He's done it with a guy that no one knows his name outside of Indianapolis, and then Doyle, who, again, it wasn't like people are banging down the door for Jack Doyle, but they've become good players. Credit them with that.
Dan Orlovsky's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. What do you see differently in Andrew Luck? Because to me, whether it's protection or, as you mentioned earlier, just confidence in the play calling that he's never had around here before, but it just seems like he has a completely different touch. Most everything he throws is right there on a dime. What do you see that's different?
Well, I'll be honest. I don't know if I see much that's different. He still had a good thing to do through for over 30 touchdowns in 2015. And people forget that Andrew Luck is one of the 7 guys in the history of the NFL thrown for 40 touchdowns. So I don't know if I see different. Andrew Luck is playing the way everyone had thought he would. He's playing the way that early on in his career he did, but he had that, back into 15 banged up, 16 banged up, doesn't play 17, and we live in such a right now culture that it was like we forgot how great Andrew Luck is. We forgot that Andrew Luck took a team that was – I was on the team – that was barren with talent and had 3 straight 11-win seasons and into the playoffs. So we forgot the greatness in a way of Andrew Luck. And now we're just getting reminded of it again that, okay, he's healthy. He certainly has a coach that understands him and puts him in great situations. He's got some solid players around him and obviously the offensive line. So I don't know if I'm seeing anything that I haven't seen in the past or wasn't hopeful for, but just being reminded of it like, hey, guys, don't forget, I'm still the guy that has accomplished some things in this NFL. I'm just back to being healthy and being protected. Now, I'll say this. If this offensive line, and I was on a couple of weeks with you guys and said they're one player away. If this offensive line continues to play the way they are, and they can go get a playmaking wide receiver either in the draft or free agency, this will be the best offense in football in 2019. This will absolutely be in the conversation for best offense in football in 2019. So it's a lot of fun to watch.
It's Dan Orlovsky, ESPN. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Speaking of that, and somebody that kind of wants to be noticed, and knowing that the Colts have a lot of money to spend, and knowing that this offense, as you mentioned, should be dynamic coming up in 2019, is it necessary? Do the Colts need, and also knowing this is not the Chris Ballard path that we know, but Le'Veon Bell's put out some interesting flirtations about wanting to come here. Is he a missing piece to this offense? Should he be considered, or should they move on going down the path that Chris Ballard has taken and not going with free agents of that ilk, Dan?
Well, listen, Le'Veon Bell is one of the 5 best players in the NFL. I mean, he's done things in that organization in a short period of time that are he's 4th in the history of the Steelers in rushing in 4 years. He's 8th in receiving. I mean, that's outrageous in that organization in 4 years to do that. So it speaks to the brevity or the magnitude of how great of a player he is. I'm not too concerned with the holdout and skipping a year. Guys do stuff. It's the business. I'm not sitting. I don't believe it makes him a bad teammate. I don't know in today's NFL if having that back when you have the quarterback already is a big deal. Like, if you just had a solid quarterback or a good quarterback, then having that back may be the thing that takes him from solid or good to really good. But you have one of the best 8 quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't believe that you need that running back. I believe that you need the receiver. And I'm not talking about a receiver that is going to be the highest paid guy in the NFL, the Odell Beckham, to break your bank. I just believe that you need a guy that is worthy of being a number one receiver. And I don't know who that is going to be coming into free agency or coming out of the draft, but that's how I would view it. Is I don't, with that offensive line, you're going to have backs that are going to be productive. That offensive line's so good right now. With that quarterback, you're going to continually get favorable matchups in your box because he's such a threat passing the ball. And so I don't believe that the investment with Le'Veon Bell and the money that's going to be commanded is the right way to go.
So Dan Orlovsky with us. Before I let you go, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, and granted, they're just a game above 500, just kind of climbed off of that 500 mark this past Sunday, and that went over Miami. But should people consider Andrew Luck as an MVP and Frank Reich as a coach of the year? I think Andrew Luck should probably be comeback player of the year. I know J.J. Watt probably will have something to say about that, but should Luck be mentioned for MVP, and should Frank Reich be mentioned as coach of the year?
It's not a question. It's not even a question anymore. Don't talk about comeback player of the year. That's done. J.J. Watt's had a great year. There's no doubt about it. Andrew Luck has already wrapped that up. That is done. MVP, we're talking about an organization and a team that has been in a bad place for 2+ years now, right, in Indy? I mean, bad place and scrambling and what are we going to do? And the questions of, is he going to be able to play or whatnot? Those are no longer the storyline. The storyline is, wait, look at what Andrew Luck is doing right now with a team that doesn't have any All-Pros on offense, doesn't have any Pro Bowlers, and was in a very bad place 18 months ago. And now we're seeing a guy that's probably going to throw for 40 touchdowns. He's done it 8 straight games in a row, 3+ touchdowns. He's taking all these pieces, and now he has Indy strictly in the playoff hunt. Remember, I believe it was maybe August or September, I was on with you, and we talked about what's Andrew Luck worth himself with wins. And I said probably about 8 wins. Right now they're 6-5, and they're staring 10-6 right in the face. They got 1 game left against the winning team with the winning record. So if they get to 10-6 and into the playoffs, and listen, Mahomes and Breeze have had remarkable years. Kamara's remarkable. Gurley, remarkable. But when we're talking about, and I know sometimes it gets excused, but when we're talking about most valuable, man, it's going to be hard to sit there and say Andrew Luck and Frank Reich for Coach of the Year should not be, not even just in the conversation, but certainly, hey, we got to take a really long look at if these two guys are deserving, because what they did this year in that short period of time is really remarkable.
Yeah, you're right on the money with a lot of things, including that and Luck and his reemergence and that of Eric Ebron. Dan Orlovsky on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Fantastic work as always. I'm going to go ahead and leave it on a high mark. I was going to probably go into Jacksonville and just absolutely imploding with the expectations this year, but I think I want to leave the bar hanging up high here today, if that's okay. Let's leave on a high note. How about that?
I'll leave you with this. Jacksonville is this. It's this quote that I got as a high school kid. Failing to prepare is like preparing to fail. They failed to prepare for their quarterback's biggest weakness, and now they're failing because of it, and it's on Jacksonville.
It's Dan Orlovsky of ESPN on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Always a pleasure, my friend. We'll appreciate it. We'll do it again soon.
Thanks, brother.
It's Dan Orlovsky. Always a good guest, right? There's a lot to sift through right there. There's a lot. And if you remember, he was high on the Colts back in the summertime, and a lot of what he said has been proven accurate. No question about it. Quick break, and we'll come back. Podcast up, 1070thefan.com. The pub downtown next to Bankers Life Fieldhouse. That's coming up tomorrow. We'll be doing that for the Big Ten Championship game. Should be a good time Thursday with Larceny Bourbon, our Larceny Locks with Brent Halverson. You'll find us at Joe's Grill. That's in Castleton off of 82nd Street. And then on Friday, Bud Light Blue Friday. We're on the southeast side of town. Thompson Road and Emerson is our location. We're at Mikey's coming up on Friday. Should be a great 3 days to come out, win some stuff, maybe get some Colts tickets. By the way, the Bud Light Blue Friday tickets, that's for the Dallas game, I believe, right? For the Dallas game coming up here. So there you go. It's on Friday. Busy. Tony and I on the backside will, talk a little Pacers coming up, Pacers Suns later on tonight, and a lot more for you. Hang tight.